Today, we are here with Mark Fershteyn, CEO of Recapped. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I understand Recapped is helping sales teams run more efficient, transparent sales deals. Can you share a bit about the platform, what inspired it, and your role as CEO?
Yeah, sure. If you think, for anyone that's doing either mid-market enterprise deals, complex deals ultimately, or even if you're doing SMB deals today, the way that buyers buy has changed drastically, I'd say, especially over the last 10 years. Things have gotten more complex. There's more competitors. There's more tools. It's really this chaos, right? And so if you're selling a solution today, a lot of the challenge isn't actually in how you sell, but in how your buyers buy and helping them navigate the internal processes. And to add to this kind of chaos that we have, everything is scattered through 100 different email threads, PowerPoint slides, Salesforce notes, sticky notes, Slack, Google Drive, Salesforce. Like it's a nightmare. Right. And it's really hard for people to not only know what they need to do, but to really get deals done. So instead, Recapped is a collaborative deal room, almost like a client portal, where you can invite everybody from your team as well as everybody from the client's team. And you're all able to work together on next steps, contracts, business cases, content, literally anything you need, all the way through getting a deal done, but also through customer success, implementation, renewals, account management. Everything is literally in one place. And then we obviously integrate with all these other systems. We have like 100 plus integrations. We pull it in and we have, again, everything in one place. And, I'm very lucky in that I get to really build something for myself. I spent a decade either selling or building sales teams, and I would have killed to have something like this. I don't know how many deals I lost because something got lost in an email thread, or, my champion wasn't able to go and convey the value when I wasn't in the room for them. And I think the really bad thing about sales today is just your buyers want something, right? They have a problem. You have a solution. It's going to make their life easier. It's going to make them more productive. It's going to make them more money, whatever it is. But because of all this miscommunication and miscollaboration, these deals don't get done. And really that's what we're out to solve, is really just kind of like taming the chaos that you see in B2B deals.
I think that's great. I have, a follow-on question with this. So I think there's, direct sales, and then depending on the software, sometimes they have to integrate with specific types of hardware. And so they reach out to, channel partners to help support that, or different types of partners. How are you bringing in, I would say, like that third group into the platform if, the deal is not just the end user client or the sales team that sells that software, but there's also this kind of third party that has to be a part of the deal as well?
Yeah, Sarah, that's actually a really great question. So one of the most popular use cases recently has actually been bringing in channel partners and third partners. And so with the platform, really easily, you just invite them in and now you have three parties in that same deal room. So it's really simple. Or you can have kind of a behind the scenes deal room between the vendor and the partner. And then you have another one separately between the vendor and the customer. It's really flexible, so you get to customize it. But that's something we've been seeing a lot. And I think it really shows kind of the popularity of channel and partner sales that we've seen, I think, over the last 2 years.
That's really good. I can see that working with one of my clients right now.
Yeah, and it's so hard, right? I mean, talking to two parties is bad enough, and then you add partners, and it makes things even harder.
Yeah. And I like the idea of just everything in one location. Do you find that, having this platform kind of eliminates the need for so many meetings, that a lot of it just gets done through the platform?
Yeah, our average customers are getting deals done 30 to 40% faster.
Excellent.
Yeah, and a lot of emails are cut, a lot of back and forth, a lot of meetings. Things don't fall through the cracks. It just helps accelerate.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about AI. There's been an explosion, of course, of everything AI lately. From your perspective, what does real innovation look like once you get past the AI buzzwords, and maybe you can talk a little bit about how you incorporate it into your platform?
Yeah. So I use AI nowadays for pretty much just everything I do. It's literally like my co-pilot, and I think I've gotten lazy. Like I don't even send an email unless it's like I run it through AI. So I think it's incredible. And I think there's a million use cases for it. The way that we've incorporated it into our platform is two ways. One, just helping with admin work. So now when a rep, for example, gets off a call, our platform will automatically take their call transcripts and use that information to not only coach them on what they should be doing in the next call. So literally like having an AI sales manager or an AI sales coach with them on every single deal, but also taking all of that information, disseminating it down, and then filling out their CRM for them. So they don't have to spend an hour after our meetings filling that in. Regarding where I think it's going, I think there's a really big delta right now between companies that are using an AI and aren't. And I think that delta is only going to get worse. Once we start seeing agents really proliferate and be able to actually do the job that they're advertising. Like I know there's a lot of flack right now for, AI SDRs that are, not living up to the hype, but I think we're probably about 6 months away from these agents actually being able to do the job just as good, if not better, as most individuals, which I think there's going to be some really negative downsides of that. But I think long term, we're probably going to have net positives. But I think the next couple of years may get really, really rocky.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the hardest things that I think is getting easier because of AI is, getting that meeting booked. So you can always, get the lead and you can nurture them, but getting the meeting booked and getting them to show up. And that I definitely see with improvements in the quality of messaging and kind of the offer to get someone on a call. I see huge improvements on that. But I also think like in the sales cycle, the face-to-face interaction is very important. You really need that. And I don't actually see that going away in some industries. I see it becoming, especially in like security space, even more important. So it might not all be so bad.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. I think the first that we're going to see to be automated away is the level ones, right? The customer support when you have a really quick ticket, when there's not that much complexity, when you're trying to book something, when you're trying to, you know, get a plane ticket, like all of that kind of like really quick transactional stuff. That's probably something that I think very shortly we're going to prefer an AI to do it because they're going to be able to do it better, faster, more effective. But I agree with you. Once you start getting into any level of complexity, you do want that human element because people buy from people and you want that
Hmm.
trust and you want that, uh, unscripted advice ultimately.
Yeah, I completely agree. So kind of, talked about this a bit, but if you zoom out, across your network, your customers and your competitors, what are some other trends or shifts that you're seeing that are shaping, I'd say, the next era of SaaS? And you talked about the agents, in the SDR space and whatnot, but what else are you saying?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of platforms that are competitive really morph into similar looking blobs that kind of do a little bit of everything across the board, especially with some of the big players. Like we're already seeing this, right? Like we look at like, let's say Outreach, if you're familiar with sales, you have Outreach, you have SalesLoft, you have Gong, you have Zoom Info, you have all these tools that kind of now do all of these features checking the box. And really what you're picking is what is their North Star and what is their kind of their leading product that they're going with. And I think you're going to see that across other industries as well, because once it starts being easier and easier to build features, like this weekend, I'm not a coder. I had AI build a entire platform for me to solve a really small use case that I had, trouble with. Like normally I would go ping my engineers and be like,
That's
"Hey,
pretty
can you like,
scary.
yeah, right?" And that's me not knowing anything that I'm doing. Imagine that in the hands of someone actually capable and, professional engineer. Things are going to get really scary.
What platform did you use for that?
So I used Replit,
Huh?
and it was literally I told it what I needed to do, and then I spent a couple hours and it built like a whole platform for me.
And for those listening to the podcast that don't know what Replit is, maybe you could give a little bit idea of what it's about.
Yeah, sure. Not a paid plug. I would love to be
Not a
enforced by
paid
them.
plug.
No, they're just so what you do is you essentially go in and you tell it what to build, and it builds a platform for you, and it'll even deploy it to a website. So, for someone as untechnical as me, it literally made like the login page and the database and everything, right? Which normally would take, someone potentially a week or 2 weeks to do. I did it in about 2 hours.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting
So,
times.
yeah. Okay. So let's get back to recaps. We're talking about the competitive space. What are, so many platforms starting to look the same. What are some key differentiators, for your platform?
Yeah. So excellent question. So we were, for better or for worse, we were the first ones in our space doing this. So we started in 2019. So as far as I know, we were kind of helped pioneer the digital sales room and collaborative deal room space. And now, fast forward, I think there's like 50 or 60 competitors today. A lot of them starting in the first year or two, in the last year or two. Um, the we're very lucky that we've had the same vision from day one, which is always to build the operating system for revenue, right? We don't want to just be a platform that you can share content with your clients. We want to ingest all of your data and build essentially at the end of the day, almost like a client facing CRM, right? Making us the central hub that brings in your call recordings, your emails, your Slack messages, your text conversations, everything, and then infuses that with AI and makes it so that we handle all of your admin work for you. You don't have to do any. All you have to do is show up and give that human to human relationship, right? And build that. And that's, for us, as far as I know, we're the only ones still that do it. And that's why we're winning, 70+% of competitive deals when we go up against them.
Yeah, that's really great. I feel like I should introduce you to the client I'm working with right now.
Would
I
that,
might get in touch with you after the call. So, as the founder and CEO, what right now is the number one priority on your desk? And why is that the thing that's demanding your attention?
yeah. So we're a pretty small team. There's 11 of us. The number one most important thing for us right now is literally just top of funnel. It's funny, like all of our customers come to us and they're all like, oh, we need top of funnel. And I'm like, well, no, you actually need to optimize your middle and bottom of funnel because a 5% improvement there is the same as, hundreds of thousands of leads. For us though, because we have recapped and because we've been doing this for so long, our middle and bottom of funnel is really, really good. Our number one issue now is just top of funnel. We have a playbook. We're winning, 30% plus of deals. So it's just getting as much in. So that is the number one priority that I'm scaling for right now. And all hands on deck. If we can 10x the amount of leads that we have, we'll 10x the business.
Got it. And anything outside of that? So kind of the next question goes into, the hardest part of just building in this market that can be kind of unpredictable over the next year and a half. And you mentioned top of funnel. Anything else, such as team building or additional complexities that could be impacting the business?
I'll say this from, I think, the lens of anyone watching.
Hmm.
Obviously, you don't have to invest in Recap. You could do this with Google Docs. You could do this with Notion, but really think about not only your sales process, but think about it from the buyer's perspective and the journey that they're going through. What additional friction are you adding? How confident are you in that your champion can go and have those conversations when you're not in the room? Do you have visibility in what's actually going on behind closed doors? That is the number one challenge that we see from hundreds of customers come in. Like, we work with logos and brands that when we tell you like what's going on behind closed doors, you wouldn't believe it. But it doesn't matter how big or small you are, they're still running into those problems and the inconsistency and the chaos and everything that stems from it. I just, regardless of recap or not, try and solve that problem because I imagine
Hmm.
almost all of your listeners, if they're at scale, are running into that.
And I think that's a really good point. You really don't have the visibility actually ever, you know? You never know what's going on, behind closed doors or the conversations that they're, having internally. All you can do is get consistency on responses and get an understanding of what those responses are.
Yeah. And as leaders, right, we're beating up our reps to update the CRM and, you know, help us forecast these deals. And it's just to give us some semblance of what the hell is going on in these deals, right?
Yeah. So, the economy is kind of going a little off script, but economy is going a little in flux right now. How do you see that impacting, this market?
Yeah. Even though I
Or
do
is
have,
it? Yeah.
yeah, personally, I feel very hopeful given that we just came out of 2 years of really bad times. Most founders, most VCs, most investors I talk to seem really optimistic for later this year. I think there's going to be some rump and tumble. We'll see stock prices definitely drop. We'll see some deflationary things happen, but the confidence and optimism seems relatively high from what I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, I think for me, one of the lessons that I learned over the last couple of years is, you don't want to chase trends. You just want to build a really good business. And if you focus on the fundamentals and work on that, and like, thankfully we're about to be profitable, and then that'll give us more control. But if you just focus on that, I think like it really doesn't matter what's going on outside, right? Whether the economy is good or bad, you still have to build the good foundations to your business.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. and just the whole landscape for marketing and sales talent. What are you seeing out there? Do you see that it's a challenge to find, quality people? Where are those A players? Where are they hiding? Do you think they're harder to find?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think A talent is hard to find regardless. I think it's probably harder to find it because people are less likely to jump ship for unless they feel really, really confident that they're not going to be laid off in a couple months or that, this is actually a really great opportunity for them. And I have a lot of friends who are in the same boat, right? They're getting offers left and right, but they're like, well, I don't know if I join this. I have a really good thing going here. I don't know if I join, I leave. And then 3 months later, they leave me and I'm laid off. And like where you're seeing that time and time again in the news. I think, but regardless, outside of that, hiring really great talent is really tough because it's only a small percentage of the workforce. Like it's by definition, the top 10 or top 20%. And so like it is really hard to compete with that. But I guess for anyone listening, my recommendation would be like, yes, obviously search for the top talent. But in order to really scale, you need to be able to have roadblocks and guardrails and process that doesn't matter the skill set of the person you put in, they're still going to be able to perform and bring out, 70 or 80% of what a good, someone that's really, truly great would be able to do that. And that's how I think that's one of the shifts I've had as a leader as I'm thinking about the team. Before I was trying to only hire A plus players, but even if you hire really great people and you don't give them the enablement and the support that they need, they're not going to stick around. And so now I'm trying to really focus on the processes and the enablement and the guardrails for them so that they're successful. So it doesn't matter who we put in that seat. Obviously, the better, but go from there.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's talk about, some of your customers and some big wins with customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you share a story where Recap made a measurable difference?
Yeah.
Maybe a deal that closed faster or a team that it transformed.
There's so many. We've been very lucky. So we work with everything from two-person startups to Zoom, Workday, Content Square. There's a lot of really great names, right? Cybersecurity firms, sales teams, customer success teams. There's a lot. I'll tell you some kind of overarching that we've seen across over nearly 100,000 deals. So across those deals, we've had nearly $6 billion closed through our platform so far, which is just mind blowing to think about. On average, customers are closing deals about 31% faster. They're closing 45% more deals, and they're closing them for 40% higher ticket prices, which is nuts. Then you have like the 2 hours saved per day per rep on AI automation, and those numbers start to get really crazy. One of our customers, rightly, they had a 39% increase in close rates. Like by itself, you look at that and you're like, okay, that's great. Like, wow. But then when we actually peeled back and did some research with them, and like their team was really helpful in giving us like the BI and the intelligence, we realized that actually their bottom 50% of reps that use the platform increase their close rates by over 120%. So the B, C, and D players, right, or the newer, more untenured reps saw an exponential increase than everybody else, which is like, that's fantastic. I mean, that's why we built Recapped, right? So that we can help every rep make as much money as possible and to be as successful as possible.
Those are pretty great numbers.
It's been fun building it.
The kind of the first thing that comes to my mind though is it's a different generation of people selling. And this generation basically grew up everything online.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that has an impact too with the success of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I saw a stat, I think like nearly 50% of B2B buyers are millennials now, or younger, which is, yeah, things are moving quickly.
So we're getting to our last question. What do you think Recapped is going to look like, 12 to 36 months from now? What is your vision for the next year and what's at stake if you don't get there?
The world will be a worse place. I think 12 to 36 months is a little too short for world domination, but we'll see how that goes. But for us, it's, we're close to profitability. So that's number one goal, right? Just trying to build a sustainable, profitable business. We're going to be going out for our Series A. So we're going to be scaling and growing even further. I think in 36 months, I think that vision will be really, really close to what I shared about being the operating system. Probably not in 12 months. A lot of it's probably going to be reliant on tech advances and AI as well. But I think between that period, we're going to be able to realize a lot of that. And it's really, really exciting because if we do that, the numbers that I just shared are going to be peanuts to what I think we're going to be able to drive for customers.
Excellent. And anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I really appreciate you having me on. If anybody wants to reach out, feel free to find me on LinkedIn or just email me mark@recapped.io. But yeah, no, this was fantastic. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks.